Appreciate it, James. That means not to. Before, I think when I leave Ross, I'm like, crap. Now I got to thrive. Got to pay attention.
Oh, yeah, the road gets bad, so you can't really work.
Going our way tomorrow, get the river going up.
I can text Sandy and let her know you're sticking around for one more year.
All right. You can also notice that in our paving as well. You might, you know.
You did great. All right, thanks, Paul.
Done.
You're off the hook.
Thank you, Paul. You got it. You do a favor, Hal. Who does the revenues and the expenditures. That's already expenditures, revenues done high, and revenues low.
A 3% barely, well, right now inflation increase 1.1, it could easily go up or go down. We don't know where it's going to go. Hopefully down. Down.
So if Ray talks for 1 hour, that means I have a minimum of 5. Based on my calculation.
Here's coming off. Here's my
Or
hair.
November or December.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a penalty on you today because I'm just mad in general.
That's all right. I like being in the penalty box. It's a challenge.
So for, I don't really need to go through the whole spiel again. It's not Chief's first time through here now. So I will explain to you in case you didn't hear, with the commissioners
I did.
expanded homestead. You guys took a hit. Like I said, I will get those dollars to everyone. I have them on my desk. I can grab them. It would be a matter of finding them today. But that shows up on your property tax allocation line for 2081. And I don't know why that doesn't have my little, oh, I took it, never mind, I took it from your homes. No, I took it from general property tax, because we're gonna lose it in general property tax. We're gonna gain our normal portion back. It's pretty much the same. They have more buckets. They have less, well, I don't know, say they have fewer funds. They have probably a similar number of funds in the road department, but they have more potential incoming revenue streams. The Ross local school district reimburses 75% of the SRO contract. That includes salary, pension, overtime, Medicare, across the board. We do not try to capture the healthcare costs. It was too difficult to do. We used to at one point. She's working in the schools about 75% of the year, so that's how we get to that number. The police department does collect court fines and fees. The bulk of their fines and fees come through Hamilton Municipal Court, and the bulk of them by statute have to go into the general fund. So at the end of the year, each year, we see what's out there, and then one of the first acts in January is to move that money. And it used to go all back into the police budget and the police levy fund. Now, the chief will designate some of those dollars to go to the canine project and some of them go to community events. And that is probably a really low number. We're collecting about $28,000 annually in that general fund. So we keep that pretty conservative. He's very good about grants, and I'll let him talk about that, gifts and donations. And then they do get a portion of the healthcare costs back from each employee when it was initially, so for historic, in order to get them raises in a year that was particularly tight. The then chief negotiated this plan that they would pay a portion. They started paying at about 18%, and the hope was to get it down to where the employee was paying around 10, 12%. When the healthcare costs, we've kind of leveled at this 15%, so that when they get a raise, they get a raise. Because it's been, if we kept it at a certain percentage amount, they get a raise, but then they end up losing a portion of it because they're paying their healthcare costs. So we kind of negotiate that every year. They'll have the trustees decide what number they're comfortable with, and they are the only department doing it. Just so you know, but again, we've come to terms with the fact that all 4 departments operate very differently. So it's where we are. And then we have various, the drug law enforcement fund, that some of that comes from the Hamilton Municipal Court, law enforcement trust fund, Hamilton Municipal Court. And then when we do a sale of assets, it goes into the forfeited, into that bucket. And then we now have a special community events fund. In the past, we had a fish with the cop, shop with the cop. We're trying to spend those balances down, get them to zero, and then just pay for everything out of the community events fund. And then the K9 is its own fund, and body worn grant is its own fund on page 2. They likewise have more employees and their full-time employees at their disposal, so their encumbered amount for purchase orders on that first page is $32,000. That number may change because we just added an officer. I don't know, sometimes like with one officer leaving and one coming on, it could net, especially if the one officer didn't use her deductible. So it might be that number, it might be an additional 6,000. I don't know. I haven't done the math on that yet. So as you can see, we always have a moving target on things with employees, and that is across the board. So I will shut up and allow the chief to take over. If you want to comment on any of the revenues?
What remind me again, when we go into executive session for the covering
Personnel.
personnel.
So we'll skip personnel.
Okay. No, I'll just get through that. So if you look on page 1 there, when we look at the revenue fund, I think we're going to eventually break these out in some other line items. Julie and I talked about this, but that is covering some of the grants that we got that are coming up this year. So body armor grant, whenever we get a vest for officers, we have a 25% match, 75% gets paid by the state. We've done that for all of our officers to get new vests. We have it's called SHEP, so that's Selective Holiday Enforcement Program. So we were awarded a grant because of, unfortunately, how many fatal accidents we have in our township by the state of Ohio, and that is a $20,000 grant for 350 hours of traffic enforcement. That is paid officers' overtime rate and their fringe benefits along with it. So we're not running the police department or the township on any type of quota system or ticket revenue, but this is because we have people that die on our streets more so than other townships. So unfortunately, we have this grant and we're going to use it to attack OBI, distracted driving, causative factors of fatal crashes, and we have to run those during certain times of the year according to the group. So you'll see that on there, but eventually that's going to break out into a line item. And then the cops grant that we got, so it's basically about $42,000 per year for 3 years for our new officer, which pays a little bit more than a lot of departments for our salary wise. So that grant's been approved, and that's just factoring in the year 1 cost of the additional full-timer that we have. OBI Task Force grant, that's another one in there, 9,000. We pick up a lot of hours that other agencies in the county don't use that pays for our officers to work. OBI enforcement, DUI checkpoints, their overtime is paid by the grant along with their fringe benefits. So that's another 9,000.
I will say, we pay them up front and then we get reimbursed.
Yes, it's a reimbursement thing. That's the amount I've been told, according to the contract we're getting next year. That number is probably gonna go up because people just don't work it. And I say, give us the grant money and we will work it.
The chef that you were talking about before, does some of that go to help pay the overtime that's on the
Yes.
employee cost? Okay.
Yeah, and I'll take it out.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm. I think revenue, everything else is there based upon what Julie and I have sat down and discussed. Let's see, I'll go to the fun one. I'm on page 102 for the expenditure. A lot of these are just based upon numbers we had last year and then just the added cost for gasoline, vehicle maintenance was ridiculous. So just so that the board is aware, there may have been a implied order that we would only drive police vehicles so much in this township. So when I took over, I said, we are not going to park police vehicles because we might have to repair a tire. So that order was rescinded and we drive police vehicles, which cost our police maintenance budget to go through the roof. But we're not gonna park police cruisers and not patrol our township, especially when we generally have one officer working for 36 square miles, which is something else that I'm attacking in the budget for this year. So that cost went up from last year. We have some, I put a lot into the training budget for our officers in previous years. That's 10,000. That was in previous years, $0 to train our officers in advanced training concepts. We get basically reimbursed that entire amount through the CPT, the continuing professional training program that the Ohio Attorney General's office puts on. So they require that we do 24 hours of training through them, mandatory topics. I require that they do 40 hours of that training because we get reimbursed up to 40 hours for them. I then take that money that we get and I send them to advanced training on various topics, which is risk management, huge liability, and it also is developing your future officers to be able to do great police work. Not just the police work, to do great police work. So that money is really a wash when you see it as an expenditure because we already got that much back. And depending on how many officers we have, even the part-timers do this, although a lot of the part-timers are veteran officers, but they still can go to some trainings, but it's really developing your younger officers and getting them what they need. Nothing else has really changed. The sheriff's office contract is one of our huge line items. We contract with them for 911 dispatching services. That went down a little bit from last year, probably because I took an initiative to actually give our officers cell phones that they would answer for when people call, because one, I think the level of service needs to be that they talk to us. But granted, there's times they can't because it goes to a dispatcher, but if it's a non-emergency call, I want our officers giving the best service to them out there and making sure that whatever the needs are of the community are met, that they understand the mission and they're getting it directly from our officers. So I don't know, maybe we got less calls for some reason. I don't see how that's possible. So contracted services, that's basically everything that we do. That's our bucket of anybody we have to pay for anything. So that is your body worn camera with Axon. That's our flock, even though there's grant monies for a lot of those. That's all coming out of there. Lexapol that does our policy management, IT services, you name it, it's in that bucket. And that increased a little bit, but it's because of the tasers that we're going to have to. The contract with Taser for new tasers for 12 officers, this is kind of like the body worn camera, is over $100,000. Now, I talked him down to $50,000, and that's not even in the budget. What I can only afford to do in this budget is buy 9 of the expiring tasers that Taser is selling off as like surplus equipment so that we can get enough tasers that operate for our officers for $9,000. That's what I'm asking for in the budget. Because we have tasers that the officers, they're not even uploading the correct the downloads anymore. So if we have a use of force with a taser that is less lethal, that possibly turns bad, then we're going to have liability issues with it. And those tasers have been taken out, but I can't replace them. They're tasers just like, those tasers are 2013. You're like, why do you guys even have them? And we can't afford the cost to get the new tasers because everything now with Axon, which owns the entire market, is we lease these to you for a period of time. It was a really good, one of my better selling points, but it's just I don't have it in the budget to do it. So that little added cost is just for us to get enough used new tasers for our full-time officers, and then as they break and they won't be replaced, we will use what we have as scrap until such a point in time that we can revisit it in the budget monetarily. Liability insurance, a lot of that's just carried over from whatever Lori and Julie tell me it should be. Gasoline for the vehicles, I increased that a little bit because we weren't hitting that benchmark. And then some of these are a little bit, uniforms. I don't have a whole lot of new officers coming in for next year. We only have one that we just now recently hired. I might have another part-timer that might come on. We'll talk about hours for part-timers. But that's just based upon us sitting down with what the expenditures were for this coming year, which we already know I'm going to give it to.
How many times were tasers used? How many times last year?
None. We didn't have well, no, I take that back. So a successful taser deployment is, say, if you pull the taser and the person goes, I'm going to tase you, stop resisting. We've had several of those. We've not had to tase anyone, which is good.
You just shoot them.
No, if we shoot them, we're going to start with about $1 million for the lawsuit for that. So our tasers, we have deployments that are use of force, which have gone up since last year, but we haven't deployed a taser. Which hopefully we never have to deploy a taser. Hopefully we never have to shoot anybody with the big bag shotguns. But the one time that we don't have a less lethal option and we turn lethal,
That's when you need it.
I mean, look, like you're going to start with 6-figure check, even if it's justified. I mean, we're looking at a lawsuit right now with the township that was overturned in appellate court, and that's 6 figures. And that's not even a use of force. So I've equipped all of our vehicles with beanbag shotguns for our people so that they have a less lethal option. And the tasers are just, it's just, I mean, they have mace, they have tasers. It's just the nature of having the ability to keep our people safe and hopefully prevent injury if they have to go hands-on. You gotta go hands-on, or you have to go hands-on. But if we have another option where they stay safe and the suspects stay safe, or who's ever having this, maybe a mental crisis, that's why we have those. You can't really put a dollar amount on how much that might save. I can tell you, I put a good dollar amount on probably the 5 taser points we've had where no one got injured because they didn't have to go hands-on. They didn't have to fight them hand to hand. So What would that cost in workers' comp? I don't,
Let's not talk about it.
yeah, let's not talk about that. So. That's all from the revenue side. If you, am I going to now then my
Balances.
balances?
Any idea what last year's cost for maintenance was, what the
Yes,
real cost was?
thanks for asking. It's two different buckets. I split it between the actual repair costs and the automotive costs. So we have spent to date $16,075 in vehicle repair. And if I look at auto supplies, we have spent to date $23,348 in auto supplies.
Is that two different buckets on here?
Yes, he might not have it broken out, but I do. We have repairs, building repair, and then we have vehicle repairs. And when I get a bill in and there's a labor and parts cost, I separate them so that we're.
We got one vehicle, 15,000 for just a motor.
Well, we already know we have the SRO car, the transmission's gonna have to be.
That is where's those two buckets of you?
Okay, but this is fun. 2081, going up, we're on page 102. Line item that ends 323-4032 is the vehicle maintenance. That is the actual labor cost, so it's 20,000. Then if you go to the next page, on page 2 of 2, auto parts and supplies 420-105. Oh, maybe that's vehicle graphics. He has everything in one bucket, whereas I separate it out. So he's estimating 20,000 for both, whereas in this year when we spent 39,000 to date, and that I still.
None of that would have been anything to do with the new cruise.
No, well, the purchase would be on a different line, but like the signage and all that, and yes, and putting the MCDs in the vehicle and the repairs. So there's some of that in there too, but we've spent well over what we thought we would. We just have had a bad run with some vehicles. We put brand new tires on them and then.
I think we're putting tires on almost every single week. They just kept hitting things that they, like we actually had to have a conversation about when you're driving through the construction areas, trying to watch where you back up and don't, but I mean, it's cost of doing business.
Right.
You start driving them more, there's a lot of construction going on here in the township. It's almost, I mean, I think I'd hit 3 with my car.
I think, yeah, I've teased Jake that lobby in that new building needs to be the Ross Township Police lobby.
And they still give us state bid and they still give us 5% off. Yeah. So, I mean, like, I don't know where else you're gonna take them, where anybody's gonna be any cheaper, but some of the cars, you also have to remember, there were cars that sat here when I started, they had never been inspected. And we were gonna put those on the road, which means something happened to one of our people, if we never looked at that car, township is paying out lots more money. But we know we have one car, the SRO car, transmission has to be replaced, it's gonna be about 7,000.
So how confident are we in 20,000? You know, you said.
Well, considering that we've got some newer vehicles, we're retiring at least one older vehicle. It is what it is. I mean, the minute we say, yeah, I can knock it all day. I thought we were good and then we'd spent the entire budget by May this year. So.
Would it be reasonable to expect it to be more than 20?
Probably. But, for now, the good news is when we have the way we approve the budget, we approve it at the lowest legal limit, meaning I don't give you every line item. I won't give everyone every line item to approve. It will be a much more condensed version. Things are grouped together, which allows me to, when we do final appropriations, if there's a carryover, I appropriate it and stick it in contingencies. And if we have a car get hit by a deer, a water bottle, we've had things, we have extra money and we don't have to come back and go to the budget commission and say, because we've already appropriated. We hope we never spend it. I don't encourage them to look at their contingency. Because it's really not for spending unless we absolutely need to spend it.
So, is there a reason, it seems reasonable to me that that should be increased.
Well, yeah, really, and we can spread it out.
Unless I missed something about the contingency you were talking about.
Well, we could leave that at 20,000 and we can bump the auto parts and supplies, put 10 grand in there. And that, because I'm gonna do that anyway. I'm gonna take his 20,000 and either spread it or I'm gonna,
If it needs a training, you've already committed a third of that
right,
budget.
absolutely. So if you want to put, I know he's got vehicle graphics, but this is where I actually pay for parts. So if you want to leave the 20 and put a different amount on the second page of 420,1005, the auto parts and supplies, we can.
Which is currently zero, second item at the
Right.
top on page 2 of 2.
2 of 2. You have everything condensed in.
Oh, yeah, yes, okay.
That's every run to Napa, when. And it can also.
Yeah, we have no vehicle graphics for,
No, but
that was
it's
probably just-
also just auto parts as well. But when we do have vehicle graphics, the graphics come out of
Yeah.
there, the labor comes out of the labor.
So you're saying for that 1005 fund, that make that 10?
Yeah, you might as well. Which will change the bottom line of this a little bit.
Yeah.
It was something you said earlier about 10 to 12%. I wrote down 10 to 12%. What is the normal in the area? Sorry.
I
Do
say
you remember? This was early in your. I don't know if it was a revenue or an expense. Remember that part of your conversation.
Say it again. I might be able to.
You're talking about the CPT?
Something was 10 to 12%, and I wondered what is normal in the area. I don't know if it was.
I think the biggest increase for revenue besides, that would have been probably the biggest increase, I think, you're talking about percentage wise.
I don't know if it was an expense or.
You know what I'm saying?
It's fine.
I don't know, whatever I said.
Sorry.
Rewind the tape.
All right.
But if you can back up on.
Okay.
So that's, I think minus that little adjustment there, that would be the revenues. And then, am I going to 5-year like the capital so they can,
Sure.
the very last page for 26. So you have the body cameras, we're still funding for year 2 for that. That grant money's coming in. The state didn't do like they have done in the past. It's no longer easy just to get the money, and then we went and paid for everything. We had to pay for everything, and now it's quarterly reports that I have to do financially and submit to them for every grant, which is I spend a lot of time getting those right for the state all the time. So the flock, we had the violent crime reduction grant. We've already made the $17,000 payment for that. That paid for all the installation costs and the first year of the flock cameras. So we are good until February, I think. Did flock go in something? I gotta look at the contracts between Axon and flock. But we have enough of the Ohio opioid funds to be able to use that going forward. I would like to use, since we didn't use Ohio One funds, even though it was approved by the board, because we got the grant after we had already approved it, I would like to use those funds for the tasers, so it doesn't cost the taxpayer anything. Because we didn't use the Ohio One funds in 2025. Because I'm looking at a one-time cost with the tasers as opposed to how they do everything now, which is your lease and everything.
Which would then change your, if you were able to use opioid funds.
I think I put that under the, I thought we broke that out somewhere, but now I can't, I have to go back and do,
Oh, no, that's badges. Never mind.
either we put that somewhere.
I thought it was just here. I just saw it and I'm thinking, if we're gonna use opioid funds.
I mean, because it's a contractual, because it's coming from Axon.
Advent.
Oh, that's right. Never mind. I know, I almost said it. We don't need no sting about it.
But that's the only capital besides, I don't have any badges left. I mean, I know sometimes people take them when they retire. We've had so many people leave here, they look terrible. The pink ones were a huge success. People were talking about that from a community standpoint, and I want them to look professional. And that's just keeping them very generic, but they look terrible. They look terrible. I don't know about the appearance on them, and that's honestly it's coming out of my clothing allowance. I think our clothing allowance is really high because I can't add any more personnel unless they keep going to other departments, and then we'll just address that later on in the executive session, so.
Take a moment and explain the flock cameras to our two new trustees. They may not be aware of the project and what those actually do and what they are.
Sure, yeah. So we have 4 flock cameras. They come, there's 2 of them coming in, 128, and then I have them coming in from Corning Township and out of the south up by, if they're coming in south on 27. So flock cameras basically read license plates. What our flock cameras are programmed to do is they alert on NCIC hits. So if you have somebody that is in a stolen car, stolen plate, or they have warrants that are entered into the national database, and they're attached to that plate, it alerts our officers that they have just come in to the township, which if I had had these when I was a detective, I would have solved so many more cases. It's not fair that my detectives got it when I was in charge of detectives afterwards. So we had these in Blue Ash coming in and out every single entrance in the city of Blue Ash, and it's a game changer. It alerts people to be proactive if someone who's in a stolen car is coming in here or is wanted. Why are they coming in here?
Can I ask you a question about
Sure.
the alert? So if they're coming down 27, what does that alert look like?
So they have apps on their phones, and they can also put them on their MDCs in the computer. So that comes up, and it basically within seconds will ding, and it will show them a picture of the car, a picture of the plate, and it will say, "We think this is this plate, and this person is wanted, or this is a stolen car." So they look at the car, they look at the picture, and they go, "I'm going to run that in our database, our police database, to confirm that that is the car or not." Because, if it's got snow on it or it's a dirty plate, maybe it thinks it's an Ohio plate and it's 123, but it's really a Missouri plate and it's 112. So it's reading the plates based upon the algorithm, but they always have to confirm. So what it just gives us the opportunity to do is, one, be proactive if it goes off, because I get them at home, and then they will get a call from me like, "Did you see the block hit?" And even if they can't get to it, if it keeps coming in, they're able to track that or go, "This is where it hit last. Where could it have gone to? Can I go look for that car to either locate the suspects for the car?" But it also can be used for people that commit a crime, but they use somebody else's car. And then we get video surveillance of, say, a guy who breaks in next to my house, and he steals a big $5,000 stove out of the model home. And then I have a picture of his car. So I have a picture of his car because he passes my house and Elda, and the schools have it. So we look at that car, and we enter that car on block, and we go, "Oh, guess what? it didn't hit that day because he wasn't wanted, but he hit on a flock camera a month ago, and now we know what the plate is on that car, because we can match up the vehicle description and do some good police work and be able to find out who does. So it can solve hit skips, it can solve missing people. We can actually, if we suspect somebody of doing something, we can put an alert on their car, and it can alert us that that person is coming into the township, which is how I caught lots of drug couriers, where you don't have enough to, there's no warrants on them, but you think they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing. We can alert that to where we can then be, track people that are doing things nefarious. Because believe it or not, criminals they don't walk. So they'll use their cars and everything else. So it's basically like having 4 policemen stand guard as cars come in, and they're just watching every car that comes by, and they're recording it for me. And we never look at that data unless you're involved in something, or somebody hits your car at IGA and you say, I told them to stop and they didn't, and it was a blue Chevy Malibu. Well, now we can go find a blue Chevy Malibu and probably time it and get the plate to solve those other type of nuisance issues that come up in the township.
Did they look at the driver?
Ours will not generally get the driver because we're not capturing them leaving, right? So
Plate only.
yeah, it's plate only. So are there some that sometimes you could make out if it was a really, no, most of the time. No, you have to use other policemen.
You've got plenty of time to look at every face.
Yes, yeah. As soon as Ohio went to, rear plate only.
Right.
We stopped putting them on the other side because they're not gonna hit on anything, so. But yeah, that was flawed.
Okay.
And then we got a grant to pay for it. And then we're gonna use Ohio One opioid funds from the lawsuits that the Attorney General filed, it's called pharmaceuticals to pay for. So it really doesn't cost taxpayers anything, and it's a game changer for, you'd be surprised how many other departments called me when we had it, and they're like, oh my gosh, we're gonna solve so many of our crimes because they turn out of our streets and they start going on 128, going to Indiana or going to wherever else they're going to, like Hamilton and Fairfield. They use our stuff all the time to be able to solve some of their stuff.
And it also gives you access
To all of theirs.
if somebody's coming out of Coleraine.
We have access to every flock camera in the US if we want to.
If somebody's coming out of Coleraine or Hamilton, you can kind of in a sense know that they started heading this way.
Yep.
And why.
100%, yeah. Are we at executive session yet?
That's unless they have questions about anything else before the personnel change. They're about $12 in the whole 401,736, which is almost their 2081. Almost the bulk of that. Are you changing these things or am I changing these things? All right, Mr. Reininger, we're gonna go into executive session. So I'll give you the heads up.
There's nothing yet for the executive session, so.
No, it's true. You're free to go. You're free to
I
go.
did not mark on these, so you can have them back.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
We appreciate you showing up.
I always learn something. Just
If I can sign
thank you for letting me sit in on it.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, move for the adoption, motion number 25-129, to retire executive session to discuss employment, promotion, and compensation of public employees in accordance with Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G1, time is 7:31. I need a motion, a second for that motion.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Trustee McGurran.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes.
Trustee Hennepin.
Yes, ma'am.